My 72-year-old sister called me in a panic. She needed help sending Apple gift cards to a friend of hers. Her friend was on a business trip in South Africa, and his taxi was stopped at a light. The driver was robbed, shot, and killed. Her friend escaped, but in the chaos lost his wallet, phone, and computer. And he needed her help. From her description, 3 words echoed in my brain: robbed, shot, and gift cards. Especially the gift card part, because nothing says scam like being asked to send gift cards overseas for some crazy reason. I questioned my sister Grace. She told me the clerk at the Apple store had also grilled her, but she knew what she was doing. Besides, this wasn't a stranger. She and her late husband had known him for years, back when they lived in San Diego. She trusted him, and he really needed her help. She had it under control. At the time, I trusted her judgment. I made a decision that I would help her email the gift cards, and I'd figure it out later. I kept the email address. That was December of 2023. My sister has now sent over $300,000 to this guy, who she believes is her fiance. My name is Ken. I'm 71 years old. I live in Arizona, and for the past 2.5 years, I've been trying to save my sister from being chewed up and spit out by these scammers, known as romance scammers. And it has become one of the defining experiences of my life. I'm not a law enforcement officer. I'm not a fraud investigator. I'm not a therapist or a social worker. I'm a brother. I started this channel because I needed to share what I've been through. It's agonizing, it's painful, and it's exhausting. But it may prove to be important to you. What I've been through, what my sister has been through, is not unique. It may be happening right now to someone you know, maybe someone you love, maybe you. Romance scams cost Americans over $1 billion a year. It's probably more than that because most victims are ashamed to report it. My sister isn't ashamed. She's in love. So let me tell you what happened from the beginning. I knew this was a scam right from that first phone call. What I didn't know was how long it would run or how tight a grip they would have on my sister. My sister Grace is a very sharp woman. Ivy League educated, a writer. She lost her husband a few years ago. Grief does something to a person, and then it morphs into loneliness. In 2022, she moved to Phoenix to be near me and my wife. And in December of 2023, she joined a dating site, Silver Singles, for people over 50. And it was on that site that she met a character who introduced himself as Charles Gary. In late January of 2024, she fell and broke her arm. A few weeks later, she fell and broke the other arm. We moved her into our house, but we really couldn't accommodate her needs, so we moved her into a rehab facility. 2 months, both arms broken, away from her home, away from her independence, and through it all, Charles. Think about what that means. Her body was failing, her independence gone, her home temporarily not her own. The one thing that stayed exactly the same every single day was Charles. He wasn't waiting for an opening, he was in. And now, when everything else in the world was falling apart, he was the one constant. The one person who called, the one person who needed her, the one person who loved her. And brothers don't count. So who did my sister believe she was falling for? Charles Gary said he was a 66-year-old from Georgetown, Texas, about 30 miles north of Austin. Said he'd grown up there, gone to Georgetown High School, knew the town like the back of his hand. In an email Grace forwarded to me, he described his hometown as a beautiful town filled with old oak trees, welcoming neighbors, and the kind of charm that never fades. Those memories remain vivid and always make me smile. My sister's a writer. She appreciated a manly man who could paint a picture with words. This was a relationship that was meant to be. He said he ran a construction company, CG Builders, founded by his father, and under his leadership, he built it into something massive. According to his website, CG Builders was consistently ranked in the top 5 of the Engineering News and Records 400 top contractors in America. Top 5 would make CG Builders a $4 to $5 billion company. He said he was heading to South Africa on business, a big contract with Caltex, the energy company, part of Chevron. He'd be back within 6 weeks. They'd finally meet in person when he returned. He called her every day, at least once, usually more, and every day he told her how much more he loved her than the day before. On paper, he sounded like exactly the kind of man my sister deserved. A builder, a gentleman, a man with a plan to come home. I couldn't rest with the feeling I had after that first call. So while my sister was falling for him, I started internet sleuthing. Nothing. No social media, no professional listings, no mentions anywhere. For a man who supposedly ran a $1 billion construction company, he didn't exist online. His explanation? He'd had his identity stolen and he'd contacted someone at Experian and they'd removed all traces of him from the internet. That's not how Experian works. That's not how the internet works. So I emailed him directly. I asked for his full name, his address, his company details, and a copy of his driver's license. I asked him to prove that he was who he said he was. And I told him that my responsibility was to take care of my sister. For a month, nothing. And my sister mentioned casually to me one day that Charles said I had emailed him and that he would get back to me as soon as he had time. So a month went by and I finally received an email. A warm, friendly email. He said he completely understood my concerns. He said he was looking forward to meeting me in person, face to face, once he got back to Phoenix. He didn't answer a single question I asked. Not his name, not his address, not his company, nothing. Just a promise of meeting that would never happen. And I knew it would never happen because scammers don't make house calls. So I started digging, and piece by piece, I assembled 6 pieces of evidence, 6 things that on their own might not mean that much, but together they told the whole story. My wife and I invited my sister over. We sat down and went through all of it. No listing of Charles Gary anywhere online, no listing of his company, a multi-billion dollar construction company. He didn't appear anywhere in the Engineering News Records Top 400 for any year. The phone number on his website was his personal cell phone. In the website itself, the name CG Builders was registered 2 weeks after meeting my sister. And then I did one more thing, live in front of her. I took the photo he'd sent her and I ran it through a reverse image search. And the same face came back, flagged again and again on romance scam reports. She saw his face pop up on the screen in real time. She listened, she looked at it, she heard what I said, she nodded sadly, but in agreement. I thought we were done. A few months later, my wife gave my sister a gift. It was one of those electronic photo frames already loaded with family photos. And just to see what she'd say, I mentioned that there were no photos of Charles on there. She laughed and said, I could add them. And in my head, I thought, Houston, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. That was almost 2 years ago. Since then, I've filed 2 reports with the FBI. I've worked with the Scottsdale, Arizona Cyber Fraud Task Force. I've hired a private investigator. I found fake websites, forged court documents, a fraudulent check, and AI-generated photos. And my sister still believes she's in a real relationship. When I push, when I show her something new, she doesn't argue with the evidence. She just says, I deserve to be happy. And she does. She's right. She deserves every bit of happiness that life has to offer. The only problem is she's not going to find it here. But they knew that would be her attitude. They counted on it. They created it. They caused it. She isn't foolish. She isn't weak. Her mind is telling her heart that she is in love with the man who doesn't exist. So I keep asking myself, and I want you to ask yourself right now, how is this even possible? Over the next 5 episodes, I'm going to show you exactly how this is possible and how he proved himself to my sister, the stories that he told that got her to send him a small fortune over the 2 years, the cast of characters who supported the scam, along with the tales of money mules. I think it's important that you see exactly what Grace saw and understand the breadth of the mind control that they practice. But this isn't just about my sister. It's about every adult who goes through a lonely period. Our parents, our kids, our friends, our neighbors, anyone at any age who's ever felt lonely and alone. If you're watching this, you can make a difference by sharing this with those who need to see it, which is everyone. And understand this, the lonely are not just vulnerable. They are being hunted. They're being hunted by people who are masters of manipulation, masters of making you believe in them, and in a future they have no intention of delivering. These stories are real, they're ours, they're tragic, but they're avoidable with awareness and with community. Not too long ago, a friend asked, how are you and your wife holding up through all this? My answer was, when you're dancing with a bear, you can't quit just because you're tired. And we're tired. And if you know me personally, do me a favor, reach out privately. Let's communicate. I'm not hiding from anything. I'm not using my last name. I'm not using my sister's real name. I don't want to embarrass her, and she would find this embarrassing. The story of what I've seen and what we've been through is too relevant to too many people for us to just act like it didn't happen.